The life. I am Precious Chukudi. We begin with the front pages of the paper, starting off with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with banks ration cash as naira scarcity intensifies. Rider says the POS operators hike transaction fee. CBN suspends charges on large cash deposits. And on page 32, energy security, households bemoan as LPG price rises 23% to 12,000 naira. CBN suspends application for new loans under intervention fund, says banks now responsible for loan recovery. On page 31, insecurity, I won't lose battle to keep Nigeria secure, and that's coming from TINUBU. Federal government to return 27.5 trillion naira appropriation bill to National Assembly for increase. 4 family members killed as gunmen attack Plateau community. Judges must leave above suspicion, and that's coming from FHC Chief Judge. Stories above, P&G exit. More companies may leave Nigeria, and that's coming from Man. You can see that on page 8. Rivers defection. PDP LP kicks as APC welcomes 27 lawmakers. Not mustn't present PDP candidates in 2027, and that's coming from BODE GEORGE. We take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is leading with U-Tide. Nigerians grown as basic needs exceed real income. You can see an infographic showing Nigeria spent 61.08 trillion naira on food, other household items, services between January and June 2023. Corruption, illicit financial flow cost Nigeria others $88.6 billion yearly. That's from the business page. You can see that. Jail awaits those for forging Akeredolu's signature, says the commissioner. Nigeria in darkness as national grid collapses again. Utilizing debt for nature swap to spur climate action investments. News analysis on page 4. CBN responds to cash squeeze, stops charges on large deposits. Rivers lawmaker defection. PDP Labour Party demand fresh poll as Fubara summons emergency ESCO meeting. Stories about Osime Oshola Nadozie wins as Nigeria sweeps a CAF award. And that's how we can take on the Guardian. Let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with Rivers crisis. PDP moves to replace the 27 pro-wiki assembly defectors. Rider says aggrieved the legislators no longer Rivers assembly members. Declare seats vacant. PDP writes INEC. A defected lawmakers threatening to reject Governor Fubara's request. APC hails defection. And we can also see a photo story showing that TINUBU condemns police station burning, tells army to protect democracy. Amatekun arrests 62 suspected criminals in Ondo. You can see that on page 5. CAC to delist over 91,000 companies over infraction. And on page 15, we have a power generation crashes to 43.5 megawatts as grid collapses again. Stories above, labor fumes as federal government stops 35,000 naira award payment. Can read it on page 10. On page 21, CBN counsels large depositors fine amid naira scarcity. And lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, Osime Oshola wins Africa Footballer of the Year award. And that's all we can take on the front pages of the papers. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. Alright, welcome back. If you're just joining me still today in the news of Vanguard Life, I am Precious Chukudi. Joining to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the papers this morning is Mr. Dayo Akintobi, publisher of Lipeju Today, Ikeja Today, and Lekki Today. It's good to have you join me this morning, sir.
Always a pleasure to be here. Good morning to all of you.
Alright, let's delve in. I mean, this one is a very, very important matter, and it's the fact that cash scarcity has come back again. And as at last year, getting into the new year, it was one of the challenges that we had to face. And now we're seeing it come again. You know, people have been unable to get cash through banks, ATMs, and, you know, we're getting reports that is as a result of a short supply of cash from the Apex Bank. What are your thoughts?
Well, at least when it happened last year, we had a rational reason. That was the naira redesign at that time, that basically they were trying to withdraw the old notes from circulation and make the new notes widespread. And that was what led to that cash crunch at that time. But now there seems to be no rational explanation, because it's not as if there's a shortage of notes anywhere. In fact, we should have more notes in circulation now, because they returned all the old notes and then you have the new notes that have just been printed that have been added to it. So there really is no logical reason. But you look at the season, And my conspiratorial mind says, what could really be happening? Because now there's fuel queues again, so there's fuel scarcity, there's cash scarcity as well at the height of the festive season, at the time when goods are expensive. So you look at it and you say, could this be sabotage? We don't really know. But economically, there seems to be no rational reason as to why cash is in short supply. So perhaps government can explain, because that suggestion that the Apex Bank may be responsible for not distributing adequate cash reserves to the deposit money banks, it doesn't hold water. There's no rational reason for that. And so everybody's befuddled, really, because just a few days ago we just started seeing queues at the ATMs, and banks are saying you can only withdraw, I think, 10,000 at a time from the machine, and even if you go inside, there's restriction on how much you can collect, and the bank simply said they just don't have cash. I don't understand.
All right, in terms of, because now it's looking like a very serious problem now, because I mean, the other day we went out and we were going across, wanted to see how bad the situation is, and we saw that even banks around us, most of them didn't have cash. And so it means that for people who take public transport, you're sort of restricted. People who use money to buy from petty traders, you're also restricted, because they can't use it. Some of them don't have banks and all that. What do you think the banks can actually do, maybe the Apex Bank itself, to solve this problem? Sure, because we are now going to a period where people like to celebrate and do a lot of jubilation around this time. What do you suggest should be done?
Well, I know that for a long time Nigeria's been trying to go to a cashless economy. We've been trying to encourage more digital and electronic financial transactions. And truth be told, when we had the naira redesign crisis last year, and cash was in such short supply, a lot more people embraced digital means of exchanging value. A lot more people started doing cash transfers to use to make payments. A lot of people started using cards to buy goods. But by and large, we're still a largely cash-based economy. If you go to the market for your food items, many of them are still not designed for e-transactions. The average market woman who is selling rice, who is selling beans, who is selling tomatoes, onions, the people in the markets, by and large, which is where most of Nigeria goes to shop for their daily needs, they're not structured for e-transactions. But Nigerians we're very innovative and creative people. So what happens now is that in the markets, the POS operators have set up stalls there, such that even if the market woman cannot take a card from you or cannot collect a transfer, there's a POS operator standing by who's ready to handle the transaction and give you cash. But of course, there are charges associated with that. So you're having to pay extra just to be able to buy your goods, which of course makes the prices more expensive. Now, in terms of what the banks can do, the banks are hamstrung by CBN. The banks have no individual ability to generate cash or increase their money supply except what they are given by CBN. They make requests on a daily basis to CBN, and okay, this is how much cash we need for today. And CBN is supposed to fulfill those within its own. CBN projects how much cash. It knows how much cash is in circulation. It knows how much cash is coming in through the banking system. So it's able to project how much you should have on hand to supply the banks. And for some reason, it's not able to meet up at this point. I honestly do not think it is a shortage of paper money. I don't think so. Something is happening somewhere, either along the distribution process, because you would think that perhaps it's because they're withdrawing the old dirty notes and maybe shredding them and replacing them with newer notes. But no, the very dirty, very old notes are still out there in circulation. So it's not that they're withdrawing them. So I don't believe there's a shortage of notes. I think it's just something to do either with the distribution line or regulation. I know the CBN governor and the minister, the coordinating minister of the economy, have been talking about reducing cash in supply as a way of getting the economy to grow and to reduce inflation. I'm not an economist, so I don't understand the technicalities, but I heard them saying the other day that we need to reduce the amount of cash that is floating around out there, because generally when there's too much cash chasing too few goods, prices get depressed. I think, or is the other way around? Maybe prices get increased. I'm not an economist. I'm not sure. But they did say something about reducing the money supply. So maybe that's what's happening. But this is the wrong time to do it. At the festive season, like you said, this is the time when we give gifts. This is the time when we celebrate. This is the time when we have parties. So this is not the time to be reducing money supply. Rather, this is the time to be increasing it.
All right, moving on. Yesterday, 7 members of the House of Assembly from PDP in Rivers State defected to the APC, and these are loyalists to Wiki. Of course, it has caused an uproar in the state. What exactly do you make of that situation?
Well, you can see Wiki's handwriting all over this scenario. You can see his stamp on it. But the opposition, PDP and LP, have kicked on one basis. Extant law states that if you defect, your seat is actually owned by the party. You're just holding it in trust for the party. It's the party that the people voted for. So what extant law says now is that if you defect, right, you lose your seat because that seat belongs to the party. So the party should put somebody else in that seat. Then there is a clause to that law. And the clause is that if your party is in crisis, if you can demonstrate the fact that there are problems within your party, particularly problems affecting your own constituency, you can change parties and not lose your seat. So that's what those 27 Rivers lawmakers are saying, is that in Rivers State, the PDP is factionalized. I mean, there's Wiki's faction, there's Fubara's faction, but the PDP in Rivers State is in crisis. Even at the national level, there's problems, because even the national chairman who is acting, there's somebody who is saying he's not legitimate, there are all kinds of things happening in the PDP. So those lawmakers are standing on that their party is in disarray in Rivers State, which gives them the legal right to defect without losing their seats. A court has to make that determination, because how do we define crisis? Or how do we define crisis that rises to the level of you no longer being able to operate with that party and be an effective representative of your constituents? So a court will have to determine that. But the bottom line is they did move, right? The thing for me though is that Rivers has always been a PDP state. And I also believe that the people who went to the polls, I believe that they voted for PDP and they wanted PDP in power. So at least 27 people can now cross carpet and go to a different party, because it's politics that's playing out. This whole thing is between Wiki and Governor Fubara. I don't know if Governor Fubara can survive this, because it is a state house of assembly that has the power to impeach him or to remove him. That's the only agency that can countermand the will of the people in terms of the person they voted for. The state house of assembly can bring up impeachment charges and summarily remove the governor. So there's a lot of politics at work, but like I said, the 800-pound elephant in the room is Nelson Wike, who is pulling the strings all the way from Abuja. So let's take a side seat and watch what's happening in Rivers, watch it very carefully, because I think what is happening in Rivers is symptomatic of the general malaise across the entire country. The entire country is in a state of uncertainty, dissatisfaction. There's a lot of restiveness politically, socially, culturally. There's a lot of restiveness. A lot of people are not happy. Economically, things are not working right. Politically, there seems to be a lot of backbiting, infighting, disagreement. There's no harmony in the country right now. So I think what we're seeing in Rivers is a microcosm of what is happening in the larger society. So we all need to be very, very patient and careful at this time, because I think the country is like a tinder box at the moment, and any small little thing can light a fuse that can cause a major disruption, which we don't want.
All right, the PDP and Labour Party, they are requesting that INEC should conduct fresh elections in between 7 affected constituencies. What do you make of that?
Well, I go back to that whole thing now is that the Labour Party and PDP are basically saying that those 27 lawmakers have lost their seats by defecting, because yes, extant law, there's precedent, there's case law that has been adjudicated in the past that says you defect to another party, you lose your seat, because that seat belongs to the party. The seat you are sitting on belongs to the party. You are holding it in trust for the party, and if you defect, you lose the seat. But I tell you, there's a clause. The law is all about finding a loophole. Every law that's written has loopholes. It's just up to legal minds to find a loophole and know how to exploit it. Well, this particular loophole is big enough for you to drive a trailer. It's big enough that you can drive a trailer through it. Because the loophole says basically that if there is a crisis in the party, you can legally defect and not lose your seat. So you just have to demonstrate that there's a crisis and that it is a serious enough crisis that is impeding your ability to be effective to your constituents. And so, to be able to continue to represent your constituents effectively, you need to have another platform. And so, on that basis, you don't lose your seat. So, the opposition, of course, is crying foul because the people of Rivers voted for PDP. Now, how all of a sudden, the majority of the lawmakers cannot be in the opposition party? It will sit well, even with the people of Rivers, let alone the opposition parties. Even the people of Rivers probably will not be happy. I also think that this move foreshadows a defection by Wike himself, because the 27 who went to APC are his loyalists, and he bought their forms. He even bought the form for Governor Fubara. He's in complete control of the structure, the political structure of Rivers State. So I think this move foreshadows, the 27 lawmakers foreshadows a defection by Wike in the coming days himself to APC, which will be relatively unconscionable in light of the things he has said in the past about the APC, and also the things he has said about even defecting from one party to another. He actually said it's wrong and it shouldn't be condoned. So I don't think it's a good situation at all, especially for the people of Rivers. And this one that PDP and LP are saying INEC should really conduct the elections, I don't think it has got to that point yet. I think the court has to make a determination whether the defection was proper and whether they have relinquished their seats or whether they still hold the seats. If a court now says, okay, you've relinquished your seats because there was no crisis in PDP in Rivers State, or the crisis was not big enough, you guys just defected for political reasons because you know it was to your benefit to be in the APC at this time. So if a court makes that determination, a court will now order INEC to conduct by-elections to fill those seats. INEC can't do it on its own. INEC can't take the decision on its own to just say, okay, the seats are vacated, we're doing no elections. INEC can't do that. It's a court.
All right, so various groups have, in time, past called on Wike to just hands off from everything that involves Rivers and just focus on, the FCT and all of that. And, even though the people at first had said that they didn't really want Fubara because it was like he was imposed on them, they've now sort of welcomed the idea of him being their governor. What do you make of this brouhaha? Because now it's beginning to look like a Godfather situation where I control and I decide who stays and who goes.
Yes, that's why they say we should have strong institutions and not strong individuals. Wike, as an individual, is stronger than the political institution in Rivers State. So we've got a strong individual who is asserting his influence, and basically he controls the political structure in Rivers State, and he is maximizing his control of that structure. Now, that is this whole godfatherism thing at play. But remember, the moment the new administration got sworn in, ex-Governor Wike and Governor Fubara fell out immediately, right? And at that point, the moment they fell out, I remember Governor Fubara was his treasurer, was Governor Wike's treasurer or commissioner for finance or something like that in Governor Wike's time. So they were actually quite close. And it was Governor Wike that put him forward for governor. Like you said, the people of Rivers didn't know him. They said he was imposed on them. They were initially opposed to his candidacy, but they now embraced him. And I think part of the reason they've embraced him is that everybody loves an underdog. They're looking at Wike and they see him as a bully. You've done your own, you did your 8 years, nobody teleguided you, nobody micromanaged you, you are free to do whatever you wanted. Now that you've got a different portfolio, go and face your job that you're doing over there and leave Rivers State to be run by the person we put in there now. So I think they feel he's being overbearing. I think they feel like he's meddlesome and that he needs to stay out of their politics. He has done his own and he has gone. But it's not that easy. It's not that easy. I mean, look at even President TINUBU had an overwhelming influence on the politics of Lagos State for years after he had left the governorship. So, if political power resides in the hands of people who deploy it for maximum gain in terms of even national presence, it's not easy to leave the governorship office and just go and retire into the quiet good night. There are very few who you never hear from again after they have gone. Most who still have influence within their states, they deploy that influence. Some quietly. Not everybody is as loud and loquacious as Governor Wike is, but there are some who quietly, from the corner of their little retirement homes, are still calling the shots quietly. So that's just the nature of politics. Politics is all about power. And once you grab a hold of power, it's very difficult to let it go, even when you're no longer actively in office.
All right. Moving on now, former Deputy National Chairman of BODE George for the PDP has told members of the party scheming to field the Northerner as PDP is a presidential candidate in 2027 election to jettison the idea. I totally agree with him, and it's just based on the principle of equity, fairness, and justice in terms of rotational presidency. This, to me, is the primary reason that the PDP lost the presidential election, because after 8 years of President Buhari being a Northerner, fairness, equity, and justice dictates that the presidency should have rotated back to the south. As such, there are a bunch of Nigerians who automatically, regardless of what Northerner was put forward, were not going to support a Northern ticket. They just automatically said, the North has had it for 8 years, the South must have it next. So, to many people who voted in that last election, was either going to be president, it was either going to be candidate TINUBU or candidate Obi. Many were not looking at Atiku because they felt it was unfair that 8 years of Buhari should not be followed by either 4 or 8 more years of an Atiku presidency. So that's essentially where BODE George is coming from, is that in 2027, when we are going to the polls again, the PDP must not field a Northern candidate because it will be trying to upend that gentleman's agreement of rotation between North and South, and that as long as he's of the opinion too that the fact that they fielded a Northern candidate this last election played a role in making them lose. And if you remember, the Southern governors had agreed, and that was Wike's grouse till the end. All the Southern governors had agreed that they were going to back a Southern candidate for president, until when Atiku now won the primary, and then the G5 came out complaining that they can't support a Northern ticket because they had an agreement that it would be a Southern candidate for president to contest for the presidency, even from the PDP. So I think where BODE George is coming from is on that basis. First of all, that if we feel the Northern candidate, we definitely will lose. Secondly, the principles of rotational presidency still apply in Nigerian politics today, and the South is entitled to 8 years after Buhari's 8 years, which means that in 2027, the South would have only done 4 years and are entitled to another 4. And so, there's no way a Northerner should contest in 2027, at least not on the platform of the PDP. So that's what he's advocating, and I agree with him. All right, moving on. The president has said that the battle to keep Nigeria secured is one battle he would not lose, and he provide the military with the necessary support to keep troublers at bay. What's your thought on this? Well, that's the right thing for him to say, but that's just so much talk. We hear a lot of talk, and but every day there are still incidents. Yesterday there were killings again. There are still securities. He went to my Maiduguri yesterday, and while he was there, the president, he made a speech. He talked about this issue of insecurity. He also, of course, talked about the accidental friendly fire that the army did in Kaduna State. So he's saying all the right things, but the question is, how does he implement the ones he's saying? We've heard all these things, but President Buhari said more than this in his time, and insecurity was not resolved in his time. So if it's in terms of feel-good rhetoric, this is a good thing for us to hear, but substantively, what can he actually do? I mean, he's rejigged the security architecture, he's put in a new national security advisor, he's changed all the chiefs of staff, what do they call them,
the heads of the military units, army, navy, service chiefs. Thank you. I'm going to say joint chiefs of staff, service chiefs. He's changed all of them. So what more can he do? Okay, in his 2024 budget, security commands a large percentage of the money he wants to spend. And yes, so money is important for ammunition, for armament, for equipment, for staff payments, and because you have to keep morale high, you have to do training, you have to do all kinds of war simulations, and there's so many things that require money. So it's one thing to say this is what you want to do, but it's another thing to back it up with the necessary resources, money, manpower. I believe that even till now the armed forces don't have enough men, that we need massive recruitment. That all takes money. So it's good to talk about it, but let's put some muscle behind the words in terms of what we make available to the military.
Right, let's look at Mr. and Mrs. before we go, and this is a conversation between both of them. And Mrs. says, say it again, and Mr. replies and says, I ate her puff puff. And Mrs. replies, says to Mr., now how did it sound to you? Mr. replies and says, normal. And then Mrs. says that she ate another woman's puff puff is normal. Okay, Mr. replies and says, okay, I ate the puff puff she served. And Mrs. said, better.
Yeah, because puff puff can be a metaphor for something else.
Exactly.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Nice one.
Alright, thank you so much, Mr. Bayo Akintobi, publisher of the pages today, Keja today, and Lekki today. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Also, remember that you can equally like, share, and subscribe on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. To find out today's stories, go to our website www.vanguardindia.com to find out more. I am Precious Chukudi, and thank you for watching.